Hey there everybody, welcome back to the Game Vault. This is another Captain's Log, and I am Captain Beefy here with the news for you today. Thanks for stopping by. So, we've moved the Captain's Log to Fridays now. I've decided that's going to be a better day for me to do this because I'm going to kind of look at what happened during the week, and we'll talk about it on Friday together. And today's big story, this big breaking news, this stuff that's causing Twitter to melt down. Aloy from Horizon series, well, she's gay. So let's cue up the music and we'll talk about it. I've said this before. I'm a person with conservative values. I'm a 53-year-old man, been around for quite some time. I've lived my life, and I've seen things come and go in the world and change and all that kind of stuff. I've watched trends come and go. You know, I've seen it all. And by the time you hit 50 years of age, you've seen quite a bit of stuff. Some stuff you wish you didn't see. But in any case, the recent cultural push for inclusivity for everybody, everywhere, all the time is absolutely insane anymore. I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's not like, accept me, but, celebrate me, blah, 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 blah. And that gets annoying after a while. Now, anybody who's into gaming at all remembers a couple months ago when a little game called Hogwarts Legacy was released, and the backlash it got prior to its release. Once it was released, the hate and vitriol directed towards streamers who were streaming it, and things got really ugly. And that was from the trans community, their allies and all that. Not all trans people, of course, it's not the way it works, but the community in general and the activists were all up in arms over this game because of something J.K. Rowling said that went against their worldview and angered them, and by playing the game, you were supporting, quote-unquote, the genocide of trans people. Shortly after that, we had Atomic Heart come out, which the developers were a Russian company based out of Greece, but for some reason, if you played that game, you were supporting the war against the Ukraine and the genocide of the Ukrainian people. And I am Ukrainian, and I don't agree with that. I thought it was just a foolish thing, but whatever. These are games. Enjoy them. Don't take them too seriously. Take the activism out of it. Get these damn activists away from everything. Activists are worthless human beings. They look for issues. And that goes on both sides of the coin. Now let's talk about wokeism in games, quote-unquote wokeism, and what people refer to as wokeism. And woke, things that are woke are like the recent Bud Light campaign with Dylan Mulvaney being the spokesperson for Bud Light and all the backlash that ensued with that. There's countless examples of it out there in corporate America. And you'll see bits and pieces of it in games from time to time. And that is, something you would refer to maybe as virtue signaling, where you kind of throw a bone to a certain group of people, but it's kind of disingenuous in a way, or whatever, And then there's this imagined wokeness that, you'll see out there that some people get upset over on the right hand side. So you can easily piss off people on both sides of the coin at any given moment when you release a game, a movie, advertise a product, whatever. It's absolutely insane the way things are going these days, and I just wish everybody would relax and not take everything so friggin' seriously. Let's look at some other games this year that came out and some stuff that was complained about. The Dead Space remake, right? Early on in the game, during, I think it was the opening cutscene, Isaac's talking to a fellow crew member, female, and he was talking to her, watching a video from his girlfriend that he had recorded previously and just kind of rerunning it. And she says to him, well, I'd rather listen to my girlfriend than talk to Captain Hammond 2, or something along those lines, right? I don't know the exact thing. And people are like, oh, that's woke, they made her a lesbian and all that. And I'm like, well, come on, guys, that's a bit of a reach there. You don't know she's a lesbian at that point. I could be talking to a friend at work, for instance, right? And he could be talking to his wife instead of doing something. I could say, oh, I'd rather be talking to my wife than doing that too. I don't have a wife, you know. I have a girlfriend, but I don't have a wife. But that doesn't mean I'm a married man, so you get what I'm saying there. And he also had bathroom signs that had male, female, and a male, half female thing. And people lost their minds over that. I wouldn't even have noticed that. You know, those are silly little things there. We're going back to Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy, even though it was despised by progressives, allies of the trans community and the trans community itself, and again, these are the activists, these are not just your general everyday people. It was exceedingly woke. As I played the game, I was like, this is insanely woke. I mean, you have a school in Scotland in the 1800s that looks like a Benetton ad from the 80s, you know, people of all different colors and nationalities there and all that. And it kind of was weird in that way. I'm like, well, this is kind of weird being that it's set in this time frame. And I get it, it's a fictional place, and if, you know, and it's all fiction and all that. But if you're gonna ground something in the real world, it's kind of nice to ground it with reality, you know? That would be, you know, that would be like a game set in the Congo, and you got Irishmen and Norsemen running around in there and all that. You don't know. You would expect it to be African people. In the Middle East, you would expect it to be Middle Eastern people, you know, Russians, you know, so forth and so on. Especially period pieces that take place in a different time when the world was not so global and people weren't so well traveled. Now, yeah, there is always exceptions to the rule, and you always have, you know, individuals that made it to a foreign land. But I mean, imagine something in Japan that took place during the time of the samurai, and you have a bunch of non-Japanese people, they're not even Asian, you know, running around. You got a black samurai, and you got a Norwegian samurai, and then you got an Australian samurai, and a Spanish samurai. It'd be so weird, right? It doesn't make sense. And those kind of things feel disingenuous to me. They feel like virtue signaling rather than actual representation. Looking at a couple other games, what else has happened lately? Oh, you know, here's another funny one. Resident Evil 4. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Taking out the kind of perviness of, you know, making Ashley climb things and all that, looking up her skirt and seeing her underwear and all that. Well, that's woke now, blah, blah, blah. Nah, that's, yeah, come on, dude. That's not woke either. You gotta remember, gaming has grown up a bit. Back in the day, gaming was for young people, made by younger people. I mean, not made by younger people so much, but it catered to a young crowd. And you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, you didn't have the variety of ages that you have these days for gaming. You didn't have a lot of guys in their 50s gaming. I got a guy in his 60s and all that plays No Man's Sky with me during the live stream and all that. And it's fantastic, man. You know, we're the guys that were there from the beginning. We played Pong. Did you play Pong? I played Pong. So, you know, we've all grown and matured and all that. And where you might have found that amusing and titillating in your teens or your 20s or whatever, just like, haha, whatever. In your 50s, you're like, yeah, you know, I don't miss that at all. That's kind of silly, you know. Somebody argued that she was underage. No, she's not. But even so, it's like, in that kind of game, it doesn't fit. It has its place in its own type of game, whatever. Japan likes to make pervy games. We've seen plenty of examples of it. It's quite amusing. But in Resident Evil 4, I don't think it was missed a single bit. So, there's that. And, you know, you look at The Last of Us 2. I never played that game. I know, I never played that game. I never finished the first one. Don't tell anybody. I would like to go back and play the first one through. I might get the remaster when it's really, really cheap. Or not the whatever. The remaster or whatever. And, you know, play through it and check it out. Because I hear so much good about it. But, you know, then I hear, yeah. But whatever. I never played the second one. Now, virtue signaling is one thing, right? If you throw in characters like in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, there was 2 males that were involved in a relationship in London, and they were prominent male figures. One was, I believe, the sheriff of the town or something, and the other was the guy that was going to be taking over at the mayor. I forget exactly their names or their positions and all that. But these are two prominent men back in a time when you wouldn't have that be so obvious. And they were pretty obvious about it. In fact, when I first started talking to the sheriff guy, he set up a mission for me and all that. I'm like, yeah, he's gay. I just, the gaydar kicked in. I was like, yeah, he's a gay guy. You could tell. So, to me, that felt like pandering. That felt like, well, let's just throw in some gay people here and there just to make things, to make them happy, as opposed to, creating something that was more authentic. And if you had somebody be that way, then you make it, more authentic and more organic so it feels correct. I don't know. I'm just a guy on the internet, right? So, let's get back to Horizon. Now, I played through Horizon Zero Dawn and the Frozen Wilds. I played Horizon Forbidden West. I beat all that stuff. I got the expansion, the Burning Shores expansion. I downloaded, on schedule. I've played through several hours of it. I'm not all the way done yet, but I should be soon. It kind of caught me off guard this week. I was like, damn, I should have set aside a little bit more time to have it finished by now. But I got to a point in the game where this happened.
And what if I do? I think I know how to handle it. Yeah.
Now, I understand that a lot of people I'm seeing on Twitter and all that are like, they're upset about this. They're like, oh, they made Aloy gay, And this is not, in my opinion, pandering, because this feels like proper representation. So kudos to Gorilla for this, because this character feels authentic in the way she is. And if you're shocked that she's lesbian, well, then you really haven't been paying attention to the character, or you've never played anything other than the Burning Shores DLC, because there are some indicators along the way that she may go this route, right? Like, and here's some spoiler alerts for the games itself. If you haven't played through them, you don't want anything spoiled, then tune out now. But Aloy is a clone of Elizabeth Sobek, a doctor from 1,000 years prior, and that explains her whole not having a mother and all that from the first game. In the second game, we meet another character. I can't remember her name. It was played by Carrie-Anne Moss. Tilda, was it? Anyway, we meet this other character who comes back to Earth, who had gone away from Earth and came back to Earth 1,000 years later, and there's a whole complicated story behind that, and we need to explain all that. But the fact of the matter is, when she got there and Aloy met with her and they talked about some stuff, you could tell that she and Elizabeth were involved in a relationship, a lesbian relationship, right? So these two characters were involved in one. So that kind of, right there says, well, Aloy is a clone of Elizabeth Sobek, right? What is a clone? A clone is a copy. Why would the copy be different than the original? It really shouldn't be, unless there was, there's always nature versus nurture and all that, but very often people say that homosexuality is in the genes, and in this case, that would make 100% perfect sense. Sometimes nurture might be a part of it, sometimes nature, maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know, I'm no expert on these kind of things, but for me, when I saw that part and all that, I was like, well, that kind of, then I started looking at Aloy a little harder, and I'm like, she rejected the Sun Prince's advances. He liked her and, kind of made a pass at her. Her friend Erond, who you could tell he was kind of simping for her the whole time through both games. She always kept him at an arm's length. And she had built some very close friendships with several female characters during the course of both games, especially in Forbidden West. And so to see her express feelings in this new DLC in the Burning Shores did not shock me one single bit. In fact, almost from the very first scene where she meets this new character that she falls for, you could tell that there was a little something there, and as they interact more and more, this character acts as kind of a companion for Aloy throughout the game, and throughout the DLC, at least up until the point I am at. You can see the relationship grow, and there's a little playful banter between them, and there's something there. So Aloy and her, the relationship develops in a way that does feel organic and natural. It doesn't feel like pandering to me. And I know it upsets some people, and maybe my opinion will upset you, or you feel something different. If you do, please comment down below and let me know what you think about it. It's always weird talking about this kind of stuff when it comes to games, especially discussing the sexuality of fake characters on the screen. But it warrants a discussion because it is all part of our culture these days, and the quote-unquote culture war that is going on. But like I said, this one felt real, this one felt authentic, this one felt good. It doesn't really change my opinion of the game. I'm not upset, I'm not butthurt, I don't feel like, oh no, that was stupid. No, it felt right for Aloy. So good for her. Little girl was raised as an outcast, had a hard life, has been like this weird messiah, chosen one type character for so long. Let her find a little bit of love, right? That's all we need, a little bit of love in life. Alright everyone, well, if you stuck around this long, I'd like to thank you real quick. Don't forget to leave a like on the video down below. Let me know what you think of it. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell for notifications. I will see you next week with another Captain's Log, and we'll see what kind of madness the internet brings up next week. I'm sure there will be something fresh and exciting. Until then, peace.